Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is forgot your name, bro. Roy. Hey, Roy, you want to say what are we up to tonight? What are we doing?
We're at a recovery meeting in Keota, Oklahoma, called Victor's Recovery. Reckless Saints came down here to speak to the guys and encourage them. We're glad they're here and excited to see what happens.
Heck yeah, man. We're glad to be here. Thank you for inviting us out, man.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. He's in the drums. We're going to see if we can't get him on the drums here. He said no.
And Jordan will be up to speak in a minute. We're going to share a couple testimonies first. I actually met Jordan. This is how I ended up in Oklahoma, if you're wondering how I got here. Jordan and I went through a rehab in 2014 called the Delta Teen Challenge. It's over in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And that program was 14 months long. We spent about 9 out of that 14 months together. And after that, that was when I first got saved, actually getting into that program. And after that, we completed, Jordan went on to start this organization. I actually did a 1-year internship at that rehab, and then I got hired on full time. I worked there for a few years. So, my father ended up getting diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and he had a heart attack shortly after that. And my mother was already on disability from an accident she was in 2007. So I decided to get done serving the ministry, and I moved back to Maine. As soon as I got there, I started working for a company that I had welded for in the past. Started working on the road again, doing shutdowns, working 7/12s, doing everything but what I should have been doing. So I stopped going to church, stopped reading my Bible, stopped going to any meetings, or stopped meeting guys for lunch. You know, just any accountability. Everything went out through the window. So I slowly, you know, it was a process, but over a few months, having everything in my face all the time, I began to relapse. My justification was I would only use, like when I was on the road, I was with the guys at the hotel or whatever, I wouldn't use when I was in a relationship at the time. And so I wouldn't use when I was home, and that's kind of the way I began to justify it, and I thought that would be okay, it'd be safe that way. Problem was, I used a little too much one day, and I was driving down the road, and I nodded off, fell asleep, and I went down over an embankment. I was doing like 50 miles an hour or whatever in my truck. Hit a telephone pole so hard that it ripped the front suspension and tire and rim and everything clean off my truck. And so this was October 13th of last year. Picked up 4 charges, 2 felony possession charges, drug DUI, paraphernalia, and then also failure to maintain control of a motor vehicle, which is like a summons. So pretty much broke me at that point. You know, I had sobriety for around 5 years. I worked in ministry, so not only was I sober, but I was actually working to help others. So it was pretty tough to swallow, to think of how I got to that point. So that night, I remember I was actually looking up some worship videos on my phone and just crying because I just didn't know how I got to that point and how I let it go that far. And so I knew I needed to get back to God. So there's a teen challenge in Maine, and I got into that program. When you graduate one of their programs, if you go back, you only have to do 6 months. So I was looking at doing 6 months again. And so I got back with God, and my girlfriend broke up with me. I haven't seen her daughter since. And so it was a pretty tough 6 months. But in December, I went to court, and before I even saw the judge, the clerk came in the courtroom, and she hollered my name. She waved me over the door, so I went up, and she handed me a copy of my bail conditions, and she said, "The police never filed a police report, you're free to go." So I had 4 charges plus a summons, and come to find out, this cop never even wrote. I guess he ended up getting fired. I don't know exactly what happened, but God wiped my slate clean. Every single charge got dropped. So this scripture is tattooed on my hand now for that reason. It's Galatians 5:13. It says, "You, my brothers, were called to be free, but do not use that freedom to indulge a sinful nature, but rather serve one another in love." And I knew that I had to stay in that program. That they had 90 days to file a police report, and it had only been 60 at that point. So if I would have gotten any more trouble, it could have brought all that stuff back up. So I stayed in the program. And then Jordan got a hold of me when I had about 2 months left, offered me a position at Reckless because he had some construction background and some supervision background, leadership background, and he needs somebody to help run his work crew that helps to fund the ministry. So I took that position. He kept the board happy for that 2 months because they kept trying to get him to hire somebody else because I needed somebody immediately, but he made sure that they waited the 2 months and for me to finish that program. So I've been there since April, and October 14th, a couple of weeks, will be 1 year sober for me.
A little bit about myself. I was raised in a family where addiction was rampant. My entire family is involved in drugs, basically. They were always in and out of jail, prison, or like on the brink of overdose, basically. So it was nothing new. Addiction and drugs was nothing new to me. And I slowly fell into that lifestyle myself as I got older. When it was November 2016, I got arrested, and just a long list of charges, like 6-7 felonies. And I thought my life was over. It was the first time I've ever been in trouble. So I was like, well, this is it for me. Like, I'm done now. I always said, ride this train till the wheels fell off, and well, they fell off, so. So I was like, I'm done. And so I ended up getting an opportunity to go to rehab, same rehab they went to. Actually, Jordan, his brother, brought me an application while I was sitting in jail. I cried and filled it out crying because I was like, knew I was going away for a while. But it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. About 4 months into the program, I cried out to God to just save me, change my life, and just like take my heart and my mind and renew it. And sure enough, He did. I got a new desire to seek God, and with that, my mind started to renew, and I started reading the Word. And I completed the program after 15 months, and I went back to court. And the judge and them, they dismissed my entire case to the state, told me to have a good life. And ever since then, I've been working for the Parkers. That's Jordan Parker. I've been working for him, his dad, and then now I'm back with him again with the Reckless Saints. And it's a complete honor to be a part of traveling and talking to people. And this is like the greatest job in the world. And I'm currently, I think November will be like 4 years off meth. So it's an absolute pleasure. I just like to say Jordan is he's a good speaker. He knows what he's talking about. I just ask you guys have an open mind and be that good soil for this word to fall upon. You guys all know, I'm sure you've heard of the parables of the soil. There's the good soil, the rocky soil, and the soil full of thorns and thistles. So just asking you guys to be that good soil and let it sink in. Just listen up and don't be too hard on it. Yeah, you're up, man. That's all you do.
It's like you kept telling me, I was like, I think you're talking about Keota, man. Like Spanish Keota. But like, no, we're not. It's like Keota. You kept saying like, and then for whatever reason, when you don't understand something, they say it to you louder and slower. And you're like, I understand what you're saying. I don't know where it is. Like, Keota. Stop yelling at me. If you've not heard of the Reckless Saints, I'll give you like a really quick intro, but that's not really. I mean, that is why we're here, but. Basically, we're a very simple organization. We get those who are suffering from addiction into treatment programs at no cost to them or their family. That's it. That's the only reason why we exist. Now, thank you. I was predisposed to liking certain things about addiction, and some of you guys were the exact same way. Like, I'm not naive enough to sit up here and tell you that you guys have had a perfect life, or that, you know what I mean, I didn't even know what's going on with you. I know that there's some of you that have struggled with things that would make me shudder, or make other grown men shudder if you told them about it. But it doesn't actually matter. Whatever brought you to addiction, you're there. I mean, the circumstances can change, that's fine, but addiction still exists inside. So when I was about, I was like 13 years old, I had my first dirt bike wreck, and then it led to about like 80 after that or something. I mean, there was just a bunch of them, not 80, but and so they were having surgery on me all the time. I think I had 21 surgeries before I was 18 years old, and they just ripped me up and tried to rebuild me, I think. And they put a whole bunch of metal in my spine, and I wrecked and messed that up, and then I had to come back in, and like, you know, it's a very painful thing when you have to take all that out and put it back in. And I don't know how much I ended up with, like several rods, plates, screws. We lost count at like 60 something screws, like from where it connects everything, and had a hip replaced and some other stuff, and ended up losing my kidney. And they just started pulling any organ that you can pull out of you. They pulled that out of me. Like, so like if you don't really technically need it to live, they're like, well, just get it out of him, I guess. I don't know how that worked. But when I was 13 and 14, I had such an issue with pain that they would check me out of the hospital, and I was at that point just in massive amounts of pain, and they would check me back into the hospital about every 2 to 3 weeks just so I could rest for the weekend. Because if you guys have ever been on painkillers, you know, like the pills are, I mean, it's one thing, but your body cannot keep processing them, especially with one kidney. It will eventually just shut down on you. So that was when, I'm telling you all that to tell you that's when like this miracle drug called Oxycontin came out. That was, if you guys remember. So like if you remember like in the 90s, like late 90s, there was no literature on Oxycontin. We don't know then what we know now. Now we know it's like the devil, right? But like then, we didn't know that. There was nothing out there. In fact, the FDA said it was non-addictive. That's what they said. So they had to settle for like $1 billion or whatever. But that's when I got started on Oxycontin. And so it was pretty grim after that, but it led to like a 16-year addiction where I was on the needle pretty heavy, and I was shooting up between like 10 and 12 times a day. I mean, at my peak, and it was a well-accepted fact that I was going to die before I was 35 years old. Like everyone knew it. My family knew it. They kind of come to terms with it, and that was why I was like allowed to be an idiot, right? Like. And I'm telling you that because some of you I talk to people that have genuine problems. You guys got genuine problems. And one of the things about autism that you don't know yet, but you might learn, I'm gonna probably say things that offend you a lot. Like, I don't mean to, but at the same time I won't apologize for it. Like, I don't have that much time and I don't get to be with you guys. You know, I may never see some of you again. In fact, I was sharing that with him before I got up here. Like, when Reckless is called to go somewhere, I have a very unique, I guess, position in the kingdom. A lot of people aren't comfortable with it, but I'm strangely comfortable with it. When I show up to talk to someone or an intervention, we do a lot of those. Or if I show up to talk to a drug class or whatever it is, in jails or whatever, I'm usually the last chance or the last grace that anybody sees. And some of you guys, you've been playing on God's grace for a while now. And when you see me, that's a good thing. God's reaching out one more time, but He's also done. Like, that's it. Because they did a stat on this. It's like 20-something% of the people that I talk to either wind up overdosed, dead, or back in prison and kind of lose their chance at that. So take the help while it's here. I mean, listen to what God wants to tell you, because I leave. I'm going to talk tonight, right? And then we'll stay as long as it takes. The people that want to talk to us or whatever, we always stay in the communities as long as it takes. We don't. This is all there is. We have nothing else that's important right now. Tomorrow it starts all over again. But when we're here, talk to us. Ask any questions that you want, because, man, at the end of this, I get back in the van, the war machine, and I go home for about 6 hours, and then we do it all over again. And you're going to still be here with whatever demons that you allowed to be here with you. Like, if that makes any sense. There's help. You got people here that care about you. And I'm not going to say anything that they've not told you. But sometimes it's easier when you get someone like me to come in and just like carpet bomb you guys, like just bam, 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 yell at you and say offensive stuff to you, and then I leave, and then they're here to kind of clean up after that. But like, if you want one of the shirts and you got money, fantastic, man, we'll take it. It'll help someone else get the treatment. If you don't, hey, God will provide something else. Take the shirt, wear it. It's awesome. Right? I love each and every one of you. I mean it.
Y'all give him a hand. That was awesome. I so enjoyed the realness and just genuine truth. If y'all want to talk to them, go talk to them. I don't know what time it is. Wait, what time did we start? 6:30. Okay, just stick around and talk to them for a little bit, and then we'll just dismiss.